Hey guys, it's your girl Tammy Torres. Welcome to the Gem.
We can't hear you, Tammy.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Nah, you good.
I can hear you.
So where do we leave off? We got introductions. I want you guys to introduce yourself to everybody that's watching. I don't know if you heard the introduction. But welcome to the G.E.M, the Grand Enterprises Movement. Our mission is to motivate, to energize, to uplift, to encourage, and of course, to inspire one another each and every single day. So today we are continuing the conversation from last week's amazing 2-hour discussion on the G.E.M. Oh my gosh, that was an awesome discussion. We started the conversation about ways that we can prevent youth violence in our communities. We have 3 amazing young people on here today that come from different walks of life, but come from the city life and know what it's all about to, experience youth violence in their communities. And so I want them to introduce yourselves. And then I also want us to dive into the conversation because today is going to be amazing. So Diamond, we'll start with you. Tell us your name and where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Diamond Araya Maisie, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I currently live in Maryland. I came to Maryland originally because I attended Howard University for undergrad, and I decided to stay in the area and work. But during my time at Howard, I got introduced to youth development through volunteering at a juvenile center in Northeast Washington, D.C. And I learned about different circumstances with youth within D.C. And I was able to relate to my experiences growing up in Chicago with them. And I was able to build relationships during that time while being in there because it was natural for me because of my own background, and those that were in there were more receptive to what I had to provide when it came to my services because they saw me in themselves, and they started to ask me questions about my own background, and I was able to pour into them. And from that experience, I knew that that's something, working with youth and understanding the youth and just pouring into those that come after me with my own experiences in that. So from that, I just continued to work with youth, volunteer with youth, and pour into them because I also see myself in them in the way that they see themselves in me, because I never forget where I came from. No matter how I clean up, how I talk, or how I dress, I'm always a Chicago girl at heart, and that's about me.
All right, Jesse or Gabe.
Um, yeah, Gabriel Ramirez, from Brooklyn, New York. Live in the Bronx. I'm excited to come back on this podcast. I'm a writer, aspiring actor, so I'm happy to come back on here.
Yeah.
Express some wisdom and knowledge and get back to it. So it's gonna be a great one today. I can't wait. I cannot
Yes.
wait.
My name is Josia Moore. Like Gabriel, I'm from the South Bronx, from Albany originally, born in Albany, but raised in the Bronx. And I'm excited to look forward to the conversation today. I really am, especially going my status and profile already in speech as I want to do when I get older. As I get older, and with youth violence and how we can stop it, I'm absolutely looking forward to this today.
Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for being here once again. This platform is truly like a blessing to have you guys on and just really, to have this conversation. Last week we talked to people from all different backgrounds, and everybody that came on the panel had different experiences, different journeys, their testimonies. We all poured one into the other, right? Everybody was able to share a little bit about, where they came from and kind of their experiences. And youth violence in our communities is like, to me, it's never a dead issue, because we have so much potential with our youth to get engaged in something more positive, right? And we keep finding that our youth are constantly like geared towards this negative kind of energy, and it's like, what can we do to kind of steer them away from the things that are pushing them off, off to the left, right, so to
Right.
speak. So for me, I said, you know what, I want to start a movement. I want to start a movement through the Grand Enterprises movement. I want to start a movement, and I want us to talk about ways that we can prevent youth violence in our communities. But even deeper than that, I wanted to talk to you guys specifically today, because
Right.
I want to hear from the youth. What is it that's happening that's causing young people to be more entertained with violence and violent activities and violent streaming on social media and different things like that? What is driving young people to gravitate towards that type of thing? And then I want to talk about how we can intercept that in some way, right, with some positive energy, and then steer them in the right direction towards a different type of path. So I want to hear from you guys. If each one of you guys can kind of chime in on that, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll start first. So I think what's entertaining the youth and especially exciting them to the street life. And then I will get on what's exciting to the violence after. But the youth is choosing the streets because they think it would give them a satisfying solution to their problems. You want quick money? Rob, scam somebody. You want to be free with no rules, no consequences? Stay out late and have no disciplined morals. That all gets outletted from the streets. Now, why the youth would choose violence is a simple answer. They don't want to lose the life they got. The freedom, the gang, set hood, living lavishly they're used to. And that's the issue. And it's also because there's no control in sets. There's so many sets out there, so smack talk from one end can get to the other end so fast. So it's for them defending their pride, and sometimes they're forced to, and they choose violence because they think it's a simple way to resolve matters. Beat him up. He knows not to mess with us again. Kill him. He's out of this world for good, and that's the honesty. So you know, when it comes to everything and it comes to use and what they're choosing, it's really just off that matter. That it's just because there's no morals to them. Um, there's no morals to the youth in general these days. And that's not implemented right. And that's just because of who they're around. And I'm definitely gonna end up touching a lot more on that too, down this conversation today. Because it has a lot to do with who they're around um, and what excites them. What they watch, what they see in school. So them being excited on that matter and wanting to choose violence and choose the streets is just because of those simple reasons. So yeah, that's definitely my take on that. 100%.
I can add on to what Gabriel said as well. I feel that it is a lot of risk factors within the youth themselves, and that's why a lot of violence that we see now on the news, the youth are the ones engaging in the violence. I feel that they are not able to fully have that safe space within themselves and also within the community with different resources, because I remember when I was growing up, we had boys and girls clubs, after school programs, and you see less of that now within the communities, and also having that outlet for them to express themselves. So they're going to confine into the environment. If they see, okay, Jimmy, for example, is coming to school with new shoes on and he's getting out of girls with new pants, I'm going to be like Jimmy, even if that's not who I am, because I'm not going somewhere of where I know who I am, or I'm being asked of who I am, or what do I like, or I'm not being asked when I go home, how was your day today, or how do you feel, or how are you mentally? So a
Right.
lot of the times they are confined into who they aren't because they're not understanding themselves because of those risk factors and the lack of a safe space. Not even just within the community, but at home as well. Not having someone to talk to about those feelings. So they're acting out in a way. And I feel that a lot of times in our communities, we talk about post traumatic stress disorder when it comes to military and different traumatic experiences with violence, but not within the communities of youth that have witnessed that violence. And they don't know how to unpack that because in our communities, we don't normalize therapy. We say therapy, if you go to therapy, something is wrong with you. So I feel that a lot of our youth have so much unpacked in different risk factors that they don't know what to do with it. And it's not those resources within the communities and at home for them to engage and express themselves in a healthy way. So they're going to lead to violence. And I don't know if you all are familiar with the strain theory, but that pretty much highlights in America, we have these new iPhones, these new shoes, the new cars. And even if you can't afford it, we're going to try to afford it to keep up with everybody else so that we aren't getting bullied. And, the youth, for example, going to school and not having the new things, they're going to go and they're going to get it just because everybody else has it. So I, I just wanted to add on to what Gabriel said as well. That's a good start of the conversation, and it's very important. But I'll dive deeper in that as well.
That's good. That's good. Let's go, Ja.
Absolutely. Um,
Jasir, what are you over there doing? He having too much fun.
My bad. I'm so sorry. I wanted to I want to tap into one important thing that Diamond said, which was phones, and one thing what Gabe said, which was reputation. I like to combine those two. I would say a big thing that's going on nowadays with phone and rep is social media. Like I said before in the last stream, social media has become a big thing for youth because it's like, oh, I can get this rep off if I just record me beating up this kid, stomping on his head, and post it on social media and tag him like, oh, you know, you soft,
right.
or oh, I'm smoking one of your dead friends. Like it's gone to a point where social media has not only become something where you can enjoy videos and stuff like that of sports, but we have social media outlets that are glorifying violence between youth that are reposting it and tagging the kids. So when you're
Right.
reposting and tag somebody that has over 100,000 followers or is followed by people all over the world, you're gonna be like, oh man, this is getting my rep up. Let me get into the booth and start rapping about how this kid died or how his mom died, his dad died. Like it's gone to a point where it's become too disrespectful. And I feel like
Absolutely.
social media will always be a powerful thing that doesn't help us stop the violence because it will never be a thing that's running out now.
Right.
So when it's like you have unlimited access to something, you will always use it to your advantage. Now going back to connecting it again to what Gabe said with the money thing, quick money. When you're using social media, there's a lot of ways to make money nowadays on the internet. Social media is one of the main ones because you can post a video and get thousands of likes, thousands of views, and you start getting your followers up. And then once you realize that's a trend, you're gonna always want to do it.
Yeah.
And then you have no higher ups that are there to check you, like why are you posting that, or why do you think this is the right way? Instead, now the higher ups are outside with them too, gassing it on. And I didn't see like 30-year-old men on social media talking about how a kid died or how somebody's family member died that was like 20 years old. Shoot, even 15 years old. It's crazy now. So they're condoning it. And it's wild to me. But yeah, that's just one small thing I wanted to add on.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
definitely.
it's crazy, man. It's
I would
really, really,
agree with that. Like a lot
Mhm.
of things now are about clout. So I think that is a
Yep.
great perspective to add to the conversation.
yeah. And I think, going off of what you said, Diamond, about you know, we need to start asking, the youth, like, how was your day? What, like, anything go on today? Who, because sometimes, who's bullying you, or if you notice your child's getting bullied, anything. I feel like there's such a lack of mental checkup. And then they, of course, there, a lot of schools excuses. Oh, we have a, counselor to talk to. Sure, but it's, a lot. It also starts from the family as well. It starts from the head of the household. So you have to have a, um, you have to have checkups with the children. It's important, because if you're not asking someone how they're doing, or or what's going on in their head, they're not going to know how to express themselves, and then that's going to lead into more build up tension that leads into a lot of physical violence, or a lot of outbursts that happens later on in life, because they have no, um, place to talk to, have no one to talk to about those certain problems inside their head, and that's a big issue. So I think, talking about your day, and definitely speaking out more about what's going on to anybody, it's a major importance. I always say this all the time, like, you have to speak on your emotions. Holding that in, it's not going to do anything. It's going to build up, and it's like when you put Mentos in a soda and it ends up like bursting out. Like, that's how it is. It's gonna go crazy. So you really have to talk about emotions, because it's an issue. And a lot of people, another thing, they think, oh, and this is a mentality thing, which is weekend. Oh, like, oh, if I talk about my emotions, then I'm soft, or, oh, men don't cry. We're supposed to be strong, and that little, that's such
Exactly.
a that's such a it's such a watered down thing, man. And
Hmm.
it's an issue. It's a true issue.
I feel like social media heightens that. It really does.
Absolutely,
You
absolutely, man.
see, you see people get clowned for crying on social media every day about once they finally can't take it no more and they think social media is a safe place. Then you have people like, oh, but you did this in your past, or oh, now you crying. Like it really discourages somebody from. And going back to the head of the household thing as well,
Hmm.
sometimes kids will take advantage naturally of having both parents working late, or just having a mom, if only their mom
Hmm.
working late, or their dad, and you start to take advantage of it because you have more independency and more freedom.
Hmm.
So when you're
Right.
not guided by teachers or secondary guardians, because that also goes back to secondary guardians too, because sometimes the
Yeah.
parents can't do it. When you have teachers not properly guiding kids, or coaches not properly guiding kids, quite naturally, the kid starts to get too curious.
Mm.
He or she starts to walk outside after school and think, oh, what if I invite a boy or a girl over? My parents won't know. Or, oh, when if I go talk to this dude across the street and see how he makes money, and the parents
Hmm.
aren't around to listen to this, and quite naturally, sometimes kids don't tell their parents everything. It's a
Right.
natural thing. So that's also a big thing. Secondary guardians. I'm gonna tap into that more later, but that's a big thing.
So let me ask this, because I heard all three of you guys say, about it's starting at home, and a lot of times, like you said, Jesse, if parents are not home. I remember coming home after school, me, Darika, your mom,
Yeah.
and my sisters, Kalisha and Tanisha, we would come home after school, and even Carlos, we would come home after school, and my mother being a single parent, or when I had two parents at home, both of them were working.
Yep.
So we had the freedom to come home by ourselves. We were latchkey kids, what they call latchkey kids, but we would come home after taking public transportation, after our after school programs, come home and then be able to do whatever until we knew mom was gonna be back by like
Yep.
7 or whatever, right? So we gonna do whatever, right? Look at Darika talk about it, yo. Shout out to Cassandra here. That's my little cousin. And also Jassier's mother. But yeah, so having that freedom, and but with that, I also feel like sometimes parents don't have no choice. Like my mom didn't have no
Yeah.
choice but to work. So it was like you said, Derica, we were responsible. But what about those kids that are not responsible? They left home because parents don't have no other choice. They're a single parent, male or female. They're taking care of their child, and
No
now the
nanny.
kid got to be home, or they gotta come home to nobody there, so they can't have somebody ask them how was your day or anything like that. So naturally, I feel like that can also be a deterrent for them to be like, you know what, I could stay longer at the school, or you know what, I'm gonna holler at homeboy on the corner that's talking about, oh, I can help you get some money between the hours of 3 and 7 before your mom get home. You know what I mean? Let's talk about that piece, because I know for me, my mom had to work, and so coming home, it wasn't how was your day. It was, oh, okay, we home by ourselves, and then we had to figure it out, right? And sometimes we got into a little bit of trouble, doing the things we wasn't supposed to, smoking weed, chilling, guys and all of that type of stuff. We did all of those types of things because it wasn't that supervision, right? But we still were great academically. We still did what we were supposed to. You know what I'm saying? Still, like Derica said, we were responsible, but we were getting into trouble because nobody was home. So what can we do to address that? We can't make parents stay home.
Right. Right.
I think that was going to lead to my next point of parents being aware, even if you aren't at home, checking in
Yeah.
with your child and being aware where they are, even throughout the day. If you are assuming your child is at school, that does not mean your child is at school. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's not only on the parents, the youth and the children and teenagers make their own decisions, but I think that it would be beneficial for parents to be aware of the risk of not properly checking in with your child, and your child
Mm-hmm.
aware, like, okay, my mom is not going to call me until 7 o'clock at night and it's 11 o'clock in the morning. You can get into so much trouble within that 8 hour window, to where I think parents should say, hey, where are you? I know you said you were at school, but can you check in with me at this time, and just have a child know, okay, my mom is going to be on me more than I would expect. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of that too is the lack of resources,
Mm-hmm.
like I said prior,
Yeah.
in the community, because a lot of the youth are bored. It's nothing else to do. So
Mm-hmm.
what else is it to do besides get into trouble? That's the mindset that they have, because nothing is fun for them to do after school. So they're going to make their own fun, even if it's risky or trouble.
Yeah. And one of the things that y'all have that we didn't have growing up, y'all got cell phones and y'all got advanced technology. So
Exactly.
we had cell phones
Right.
later on in life. You know what I mean? Like
That's a
we
Exactly.
big.
had pagers, two ways, things like that.
And I was
I
just about to get to that too.
That's a
go ahead,
problem
y'all.
though.
We gotta,
Yeah,
we gotta,
access to
you know,
trouble.
and we got, and
Yeah, exactly.
what's something that's so, which I don't understand. Like, take advantage of the day of age we live in. We have technology that's so advanced, from the highest advancement of technology that we ever had, it's the whole point of living.
Ever.
So it's like, if you have there's always some type of thing you can reach your son, your daughter. You know what I'm saying? I'd always said, like, calling them isn't enough. People have iPhones, there's FaceTime. People have
Mm-hmm.
Samsungs, there's WhatsApp. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of, and people who have anything, like this. You make time to check up on your kids. You know what I'm saying? Because not every mom or dad's going to be home. Some mom and dads work late, or even because kids get out at 2 o'clock. So they're not, some moms that get home around 4 or 5 ish, and so it's kind of hard to keep track all the time of where your kids go. And this is where you have to install, certain discipline and responsibilities. As you said, as just as mom said, y'all are responsible. You know what I'm saying? So, responsibility, that comes because that's a moral you learn. Because I know people who
Right.
do that and aren't responsible. I know people who stay
Right.
home and completely are irresponsible,
For
who
real.
do crazy stuff. It's about responsibility, and that's, you only get that if it's a tone that's set, because you're already gonna know your mom's not gonna be
Right.
home, right? You're gonna, you're a kid, and kids are gonna do funny kid stuff, right? But there's a certain line you don't cross. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's another thing with being a leader, not a follower. You know what I'm saying? Because you're always, maybe your mom ain't home, you invite some friends that your mom probably don't want in the crib, and you invite some friends and stuff. But it's about having a responsibility of knowing not to go across that line. You know what I'm saying? Because kids are gonna do kid stuff whether you like it or not. But it's about having a certain line you don't cross. Certain line, and that's what it is. Like, look, if your mom and dad ain't home, and you bring some friends over, y'all just chill, whatever the hell, that's what it is. But if you're responsible to know, okay, well, I'm not gonna let it get this far, or I'm not gonna do this after, that's where responsibility comes from. And that's only set really off the disciplines that the head of the household sets, you know. And that's really what it is. Also, it's also who you hang around with. As I said last podcast, your mind is only as limited in who you surround yourselves with, you know, and that's what it is. So, if you having people who are gang hood members, the chances is, you could be one of them, and that really depends on on you. But at the end of the day, it's like, I've had people in my life before who was part of those things, and part of the life where I never hung out with them crazy, but I was around people like that, But I have good morals, and I have a good upbringing where I know, okay, I'm not gonna ever let myself get this far. Sometimes it is cool to be free, and that's another reason why it's cool to be free. It's cool to, you know, like not have no rules. You ever, like, it's like, it reminds me of those kids from Pinocchio who were just free in that whole little land and doing everything they want, no discipline, no supervision. Like, that's what it is, though. It's literally like that. Like, there's no supervision, there's nothing, you can do whatever you want, and that's what the streets is. You know, and that's something that that's why, of our last podcast, morality and having such great disciplines is a must. So that's really what it is on that, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And then I also feel like young people, and I heard you guys say this a few times, like there's a lot of programs that are out here that are geared towards youth that are like but not just, I'm not talking about youth that are in school, but youth, and Diamond knows we work for an organization that
Yeah.
provides programming for after out of school young people, and there are programs that are set up that are designed to help young people as they are while they're in school, while they're transitioning out of school, like coming out of high school into college, or into whatever their pathway is, whether it's going to college, whether it's trade school, an apprenticeship, or whatever the case may be. There's programs that are designed to set young people up to be successful at a young age, like, so that they can get on the right track. However, we don't see young people taking as much advantage of those programs. And I just wonder, is this something that young people think, oh, this is corny, I'm not going to do it, or, oh, I'm not ready for that? Or is it just they just don't feel like it? I want you guys to chime in, because I'm like, there's a lot of programs out here. Why don't they take advantage?
I would say the lack of motivation, because from my experience, when I ask youth nowadays, what do you see yourself doing in the future? It's like, I don't know. I don't care. It's like those responses, but I think that they're not asked as much as we were asked. Because when I was younger, I remember being asked that question a few times. What do you want to do when you get older? To see myself starting to think about that, visualizing myself in the future, seeing role models around me. And I think that that's also an issue. We have a lack of role models as well around the youth that leads to that lack of motivation, to where they're not seeing themselves or representations of themselves or people that look like them within these communities doing big things to where they will want to do. And then comparing social media, everybody wants to be a rapper or a basketball player or something that they see online, but they're not seeing the resources of those that we have within the community. We have mayors and teachers and doctors and pharmacists and entrepreneurs and podcast hosts and artists and different things we can do that don't even require a college degree, but they're not seeing that within the families, within the community, so that motivation isn't there. So when those programs are in the schools and are in the community, they see them and they might aspire to be in it, but they might not have that motivation within themselves and say, hey, okay, I don't think I can do that, because they're not getting uplifted, and also have that lack of support system as well.
Absolutely.
How do we motivate them?
I would say just pouring into them and saying, you know what, you can do this, and asking them, starting off and saying, hey, what do you see yourself doing? If they say, I don't know, because I've been in that situation to where you were telling me, oh, I don't know what I see myself doing. And like you said, we have the jobs where we say, okay, tell me about your interests. What do you like to do, to help them figure that out? But they don't, people that they love and care about are not asking that. So I would say they would get that motivation from their support system, their parents, the home, teachers, people that are around them that they already have that relationship from. And also seeing people that look like us, black and brown people, in these positions that they aspire to be in. So I think that the motivation will come from that representation and also that support system, those that they love actively pouring into them and letting them know you can be better than what you see outside. You can be better than what you see on the corner, or you can be better than what you see out here in this community, because everything you want to do is in you. And I think that motivation comes from others that they care about, that they look up to, pouring into them. But a lot of the times they look up to people that aren't doing the right thing anyway, so they feel like that's the path to follow when it's really not.
Mm.
Now, I would like to add on to that. Where would they get the motivation from? Now, before even looking at the question, you really have to look at what motivation means as a person to
Right.
she or he. You know what I'm saying? For me, motivation really means progressing in life through hardship and struggle in order to gain a mindset that you have. And for example, you know, like you said, growing up nowadays, even when we were kids too, and we still are technically kids, we still are technically youth. It's easy for me at 20 years old to still be like, oh, like he's making a lot of money outside, or you see on TV, big time rappers
Right.
rapping about drugs and stuff like that. A lot of people don't know, but they get paid to say that. Like they get paid more to speak that back into the youth and give them the wrong motivation.
Right.
So looking at that, it's really about the person. Some people cannot just gain motivation by themselves. Some people, it takes years to gain motivation. You can't just get motivation tomorrow or wake up with it. For some people, a lot of people really need the help to guide them and really motivate them. And like I said, that really starts from kids. Like in middle school, even in elementary school, I was always an active kid. I was more active than I would say every kid in my school. But throughout my process of realizing like, all right, I'm so active, instead of using it towards negative, I have to start using it towards positive. That's when I started. My parents put me into football, and then that's when I gained sports. And through sports, I gained discipline. Discipline is a very important thing because without discipline, you can't gain no type of motivation. For like, I can easily say, "Oh, I want to be the greatest basketball player ever." I could just wake up and say that, and just feel like I have the motivation for it. But with this discipline comes into play is I'm practicing it. I'm grinding for it. My mindset is starting to build towards I can do it, or let me get up in the morning and go work out, go practice. That really is installed throughout your kids age and your teenage age. Because even in middle school, when I started playing basketball and football, I had coaches that would text me. I had my coach that would text me like, get up in the morning, and we're gonna go work out. Sometimes it used to be one on one, like me and you. Let's just go work out, put in extra practice. The kids nowadays aren't as exposed to that now, and they also feel like you said, with the rappers, they're looking at it like, man, I don't want to play basketball, or sometimes that might not even be what a kid's good at. Sometimes kids aren't physically good at things. Sometimes humans are naturally good at mindset, being able to motivate. And there's a lot of kids out there that don't realize potential doesn't only lie in becoming rich and wealthy, or being the biggest
Right.
athlete coming out of your neighborhood. Sometimes it really comes through being a great spokesperson for the youth, like we're doing, like us three is doing that, me, Diamond, and Gabriel. Sometimes it comes through realizing like my mindset is different. Why not put it to use that way? They're so quick to give up because there's no one really pushing them. I would say
Right.
too, friends are a big thing with motivation. Me and
That
Gabriel
support
keep each other in
system.
check with motivation all the time. Sometimes your support system isn't your parents or your family.
Right.
Sometimes it's really people you call brother and sister. Yeah, I'm saying so. Me and Gabriel, we do it a lot with our friends. Sometimes they're not really like the motivation isn't really there for them. So helping change their mindset, it wakes them up to realize like, yo, I can be motivated to do this with the right discipline. Seeing Gabriel and Josh work with this type of discipline, long hours. without getting paid. Like I said too, that's another thing, the money thing. Kids want to get paid so much nowadays. It's like, man, I'm practicing, but I'm not getting paid for this. I can go sell drugs and get paid more than hourly sometimes. Well, without a 9 to 5, it's a lot of things that go into changing your mindset and where you should get motivation from.
You know,
Sometimes it can be from within.
and another thing too, not to cut you off, homie, but it's
Nah, I'm done.
you know, you know, one thing and one way uh, we can do is have more learning and getting paid to learn. So we mentioned trades, right? A lot of trades, a lot of people don't want to sit to 3 to 4 months of learning and not getting paid for it, which is crazy because you do that majority of your school life. But if it's like a hard
Right.
working like blue collar job, and you want to learn for it, a lot of people don't want to sit through
Exactly.
that. And for 3 to 4 months without getting paid, so the sad reality is, going off what Jasir said, kids do not have patience to wait for the money. Some kids and youth is, when I see it, I believe it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we want to get them motivated. Let's have more trade programs that are going to pay you to learn and learn and learn. Because you want to get people showing up. People are going to show up when money's on the line. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And the sad reality is that's what it is. And also going back to what Diamond said, implementing motivation. We got to implement motivation speakers. Where we do that, we do that at schools. Why do I say schools? Because that's where
Hmm.
a majority of the youth and kids are a good portion of the day and
Hmm.
life. And so to have the speakers in school, and we can have them in every grade, where it's mandatory for everybody to show up in auditorium and have them show up for 2 weeks and remind them what they can be if their mindset is strengthened. And also, we can teach personal finance classes to implement the youth can be money smart and use that.
Hmm.
So we can teach
You've
them.
been talking about that a lot, Gabe.
Yeah,
We're gonna keep talking about that because people
got
don't
to.
know having a real wealth building mindset and not just a mindset. Oh, let me get some quick cash. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, and it's just like, to teach the youth that success isn't just one avenue, it's
Right.
multiple. And you can do a lot of things than just try to sell yourself or sell things, and that's the issue there. So we have to keep it very clear that success can be multiple things, than just one avenue. So so that's why I always say this all the time, that you can do more than one thing in life. This one girl taught me this, um you know and this was in one of the classes me and just here a couple months ago. She was like, I am someone who likes to tap into all my potentials, and that's something that I've always known, but it's always good to hear things from other people and have them remind you of that. Tap into all the potentials that you have and all the interests that you have. I always say this all the time. We have to understand we live one life, right? You have to use that to your best interests, right? You gotta use it. You tap into the potentials that you're good at. As just said, some people aren't good, aren't capable good with sports. It can't always be, you know what, you're big, so you can play football, or you're fast, you can be a runner. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to be a runner. Not everybody wants to be a footballer just because of their body type or their speed and strength and everything. Some people might have to do other things, so there has to be more outlets for other programs. High school, not just college. Like, we got to have more engineering classes in high school. More of everything. We can't just say, oh, you know what, that's a great thing, but wait until you're in college, because you're telling me to wait until college where I have to pay over $30,000, and that's gonna people who can't afford that, right? You gotta get it faster. Who does that money come out of it? It's gonna come out of you, and it's gonna come out of your parents, right? So that puts the youth in some type of mentality, like, damn, if I go to college, my mom has to pay the $30,000 with me. Like, your mom and dad, if they really support you, they're gonna go with it because that's they support their kids. But at the same time, that doesn't make you feel better, and that's like you're going to school and they think they slick because you can't work an 8-hour job, right? So you're working part time, paying that off. That's never gonna get paid off. So you teach all the important things in college when we should be having that in high school where it's free, where we could do these things. So by the time we get to college, it could be like a part two to that. If you really want to learn more, you go to college. So that's the things that we got to start tackling these things when we're young. Mind you, as I said last podcast, we're a blank canvas. We start off as a blank canvas.
Right. That
you know
part.
Everything that puts us, everything that we consume, it just paints the canvas. So we
Hmm.
have to motivate the youth, and we have to, you know, mold us from when we're young, you know, until we get older. So by the time we reach middle school, in high school,
Yeah.
we're at a certain place, you know. So it's very important. It's very important to for that. And like I said, I just think we should start implementing more things early, and having more accessibility to everybody. You know, while having to take out a loan that you have to pay back years later. You know, just, you know, making sure youth is guaranteed in a lot of areas. So that's really what it is, man. To be honest with
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with
because
you.
oh, you guys,
Yeah. I would like to add on. I just want to add
yeah,
on to
add to
actually,
it.
you know what? Let me also point out while adding on a comment by Bonus that said, "Do you feel that transparency helps with
I was
motivation?"
gonna talk about that. I was gonna have
And
y'all talk about that.
it's a big thing. That's a big thing because just now how we're speaking on you know, we have to do this for them, we have to do that with them. We fell to realize that it also has to be a transparency thing. And now that's a very important thing because with transparency, it's like, okay, if this person isn't understanding where I'm fully coming from, and I feel like they're not really getting my point on why I'm doing what I'm doing right now for myself and my family, then I don't really want to hear it out fully. Like if you don't understand why I have to take a certain road or why I have to do a certain grind, and then you're just trying to ooze motivation to me, like, yeah, but nah, man, you can't be doing that. You got to do this, or nah, man, that's not the right way. You can't. How are you gonna tell me the right way if it's working for me? You know what I'm saying? Negative or positive. Some people feel like they really have to go through the mud to get what they want for themselves and their family. So I can easily sit there and tell somebody like, nah, bro, that's not for you. You got to do this. Nah, bro, that's not for you. You got to do that. But without the transparency of, bro, you know, no, I do understand you, bro. Like I really understand where you're coming from. It, yeah, that makes sense. Or sometimes even adding on to their point to help you prove your point. Like, yeah, no, you're right, bro. Because I remember I used to do that. Or yeah, bro, I still think like that sometimes. The transparency isn't there nowadays, so a lot of kids aren't. They're not being heard out a lot. So it's like, man, like I'm listening to you, but I'm not at the same time because we're not at the same um brainwidth. You're not really seeing my point. You're just wanting to talk. Some people just want to talk to sound smart without really sitting there and realizing that you have the ability to impact somebody's life. Some people just talk about their accomplishments. Some people just get on talk shows or podcasts to just flex what they how their mindset sounds or just to sound smart. Like any of us could be on here right now just to sound smart for people,
Right.
just to get text later like, oh, good job, bro, or, yeah, no, you did amazing. But did I really help someone?
Right.
Did I really help somebody see what their true potential is in life? Was I really transparent? Because I can easily sit here and say I did a lot of positive things in life, but it's hard for me to really sit here and tell you what I did wrong. It's always easy to tell somebody what you did right all the time. But when you really sit down with that person and tell them like, I could really relate to your life, bro. Like I really did those things too. I really thought those things was cool too until I found this or until I found that I'm trying to show you yourself so we can maybe do it together. The brotherhood, the sisterhood, that's easily broken nowadays and manipulated because social media, anybody could just give you a text message like, oh, he and she said this about you or lie, and it's like, oh, I don't really trust that person. So it's a lot of things that go into transparency. I really appreciate that comment because I that flew over my head. I really wanted to talk about that even more. Like I really did. So I appreciate that comment. And I also would like to tap into what Gabe said about organization and stuff. All three of you guys have mentioned it. But there's a really underlining thing, and it's free. Like really sitting down with the youth and be like, I have this opportunity for you for free. A lot of trade schools nowadays they took that out, and it was for a reason. We take out the trades from communities. Now all they really think they have is to go outside and do drugs or sell drugs, sell weed, or their only way out is to be an athlete. They've taken out trades from a lot of schools because the government really doesn't want to fund that if they're not gaining money out of it. So what do? You send them to college and get a degree that they could learn in a book or by themselves in a year. We send them and have them do extra math and writing classes instead of giving it to them the real right way. now you have millions of people in debt. So it's really all a monopoly, you know. But the transparency thing is a very big thing because you can have a degree. I can sit here with a degree and tell somebody without a degree like this is the right way, but this is my path though. It may not be the same for that person. Everybody grows up differently. Everybody goes up with a different mindset, you know. So I'm gonna let you guys speak. I could talk about that all day, but I'm gonna let you
No,
guys
that's good.
Yeah, I was going to add on to that. I 100% agree with both what you and Gabriel both said, especially when it comes to transparency. It goes back to my main point when I first introduced myself and saying, regardless, never forget where you come
Yep.
from. Because in that way, people are able to relate to you. When they come to you with something, you may be that safe space that's needed. So I think that that's a great perspective to add onto this podcast. If you say, for example, a student is smoking weed or a child or youth or anybody that you see and they come up to you or whatever and say, what's up? You can say, hey, it's a time and a place. I did that before. I got in trouble for this in this environment. I'm not going to judge you because I was once you before, but you can put that lesson in them and say, hey, this is not the area to do that. You may get in trouble because I did before, and they'll be able to say, you know what, I respect that, instead of you coming to them and say, don't do that. That's not good. That's bad. You're a bad kid for that. You can relate on that level and be transparent and say, hey, when I was your age, I used to get in trouble. I used to fight. I used to smoke weed. I used to skip class, but I learned this lesson on how that's not the way for me. So I'm letting you know that you should look into other things. I'm not judging you. I know it's not going to be overnight, but have that approach with sharing your experience and letting them know that you don't forget where you come from, even if you are that role model, so they can see, okay, this person is at this point now, but was once this way, just like me. And that also adds on to the motivation part of saying, okay, I didn't think I can do that, or I didn't think that it was in me, or I don't normally see a professional person or a person that is a creative or somebody that they can look up to relating to them in that way. So it ignites a spark in them as well to know that was once they were once me and I can be that in my future. So that's extremely important to point on transparency, because transparency will allow you to be that safe space and that role models. Like you said, just there about, you can come on a podcast, but if you did not touch anybody or nobody really got anything from it, it's no purpose of it. And the transparency is the biggest point on how you touch a person. And they're going to listen to you because they're going to know, okay, this person was once in this, in this role in my shoes before. So I think it's very important to show that to them as well.
And I want to tap into one more thing you was talking about. But I would like to add on why, with transparency. Sometimes people need to hear why they're doing something. Sometimes people need to be questioned, and why is a big question. You could say what happened, or it's the difference between what happened and why did it happen. So what are you doing versus why are you doing it? It's more powerful. It's like, you can see a kid outside doing drugs and feeling like that's the right way. But then when you're transparent with them and you ask them and you want to hear them, it's like, why are you doing that? Or why do you feel like you need to do
Right.
that, bro? Or sis, why do you feel like you need to do that? You know what I'm saying? Why do you think you're getting something out of it? Sometimes people need to hear that they can't really have a smart explanation of something to really wake up and realize, like, dang, he or she just walked up to me and asked me, like, why am I doing this? And I couldn't answer it.
And it
And
also shows that you
yeah,
care by even
exactly.
asking, similar to what we mentioned before, with just even asking, how was your day? How are you doing? How do you feel? How was school? How was lunch? Even asking, why are you doing that? It shows that you care. So when they go out and they engage in certain activities or behaviors, they'll have that in mind. Okay, somebody does care about me. So I'm not going to risk my life because this person is going to ask me tonight or tomorrow, how was my day? And I don't want to share that with them because I don't want to disappoint them. But a lot of the times they don't have that. So I think that's important too.
And it's interesting because it's giving them a sense of realization. Like you have and off of what you guys saying, like, you know, so you have that conversation and you ask them, why, like, Like tell me, like, like why did you get into weed, or why did you do this? And they tell you that, and you can give some relation, like, what, maybe sometimes you may have, maybe they're doing weed, you may have not even smoked weed, and you give them a realization of someone else, and how it affected them,
Right.
as because and like listen, you know I can't I may not know, I can't possibly feel what you're going through. I know people who do, and off of what I know about them, la di la di la, and it releases something. So it's about giving them this realization, and making them understand, like, is this really right? Should I be smoking this blunt? Should I be doing something with this? Like, should I be hanging around these people? Like, it's about giving them that spark realization, and that's such an important step to a lot of other things. Because you give them that spark of realization, all it takes is one spark. And it really depends on what you do with it. Because I can have the most transparent conversation. I can sit down and we can really lock in and understand that. But then you can be like, you can go like right after that and do the same stuff. So it's really about, if you're willing to understand and you're willing to captivate it, because it can go through one ear and the other. So it's, if you're willing to captivate it, really willing to you know do what someone else is preaching. That's the right thing, and that's something that I feel like is really important. Just like, not just trying to be there and just like, oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah, you're right, it is bad. Then like go hang out with your friends. Like, nah, I don't really care about that. Like, it's about really understanding what the person's saying, understand their words. Meditate to what they're talking about. Because it really is important. And sometimes there's things that you don't want to hear that you need to hear. And the one famous quote, "The truth always hurts." Always. There's not the truth ain't always pretty. If you are a certain way about yourself, you need to hear it. You know, but it's like, if you're a certain way, I'm gonna say, listen, this is bad, but you know what? How do we make it better? Let me walk through it with you. Let's come to a solution. You know, and it's
Process.
it's you know it's interesting because I remember I had in October. So random person joins my PlayStation party. It's like a little voice chat thing like this, right? And basically, I was like, I said, I'm gonna see you something about his life, and he was really. And one of my friends was kind of clowning him. I said, no, 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 let him talk, because he was really open about it. And he, you can tell he wasn't the most like money smart. He didn't really understand anything saying, but that's okay, because you gotta let people talk sometimes, because education can come out of many things. The people who think is least educated can be really educated. They just don't know how to say things right. So, who's explaining to me about whole situations that was happening in his life. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna give you a certain rules I want you to do. I want you until December to come with me these things. And I'm gonna invite you back to the party. And I want you to tell me what these things you're doing in December. Right? He came to the party, and he was doing so much well. He got a job, a bunch of other things going on with his life, and I was really happy. I was like, okay, so that person understood. It's because I had a long talk with him too. It's about being understanding. Not everything is like, man, yo, what? How could you do that? Like, yo, like they may know it's messed up or may not know it's messed up, but they don't need you to batter them while they're down. You got to start treating everybody's human. You see these jobs they don't accept, or they don't want to give people a chance who come from certain backgrounds of life. They just try to make a living. We have to understand correction can be a thing. You know, Rehabilitation can be a thing for people. And I'm using those words because that's what it is. We have to give people a chance to change, and if we'll give people a chance to change, then that's why they feel like, oh, no one's ever going to accept me in the society I live in because I'm looked at as trash or as a hoodlum. They people can make it out too. So we have to open up more doors for people to make it out, and for people to feel welcome, and to people to want to change. And people who are trying to change. Some people have, let's just hypothetically say, a tear on their face, or certain things in the face, tattoos that they made those decisions in their previous life, and they don't have the money to get tattoo removal. That's expensive. It doesn't mean they're that person anymore, because you can tell how this person speaks off of mannerism, or if someone's trying to gain proper mannerism, but you got to give them a chance. So I'm all, and yeah, some people do jeopardize chances that they're given, but you're only going to know that if you give it to them, and that's the risk you take. But then again, isn't always bad. You got to stop thinking every risk we take is bad. Some are, sure, but some are good as well. So it's, we got to play our cards right sometimes. And everybody deserves a second chance. For certain instances, everybody definitely deserves a second chance. Everybody definitely deserves to be heard, at least, regardless of the crime. It doesn't matter what it is. You got to hear them. Whether you agree with it or not, it's up to you. But you have to hear them out. Whether you agree with it or not, but everybody deserves to at least speak up. and that's why whole thing with this, man. It's a big importance.
I agree with that, and even going into what you said earlier about college and stuff, this is a major thing people always look over, and I always say it. Just because you're book smart doesn't mean that you are going to be more intelligent than someone that isn't. I'm not. I don't. What the class? I hated class. I did not enjoy school. The only thing I really enjoyed in school was friends and sports. But when you look at me and you hear me speak and you hear the topics I am able to speak on without having trouble with them, you start to realize and you start to think like, wow, like did he have a certain type of education maybe, or did he go somewhere maybe, when it's not true at all. Like I'm just naturally gaining intelligence through learning things through different processes that school just can't teach you sometimes. And I feel like being street smart is a very important thing rather than book smart. I always tell people that because school school doesn't teach you how to be aware of your surroundings. Being book smart doesn't teach you how to be aware of what to do in a certain situation outside, because a situation can happen to anybody, no matter where you come from, where you're born. Situations can happen to anybody at any time. So knowing how to deal with someone's emotions and really looking at a person and being like, oh, his vibe seems aggressive before it problem even starts. Being able to read the room. Book smarts doesn't teach you to sit in a room and really sit there and realize like, oh, maybe he's about to do something. Maybe I need to leave. For example, I've been with a couple friends sometimes and we've been somewhere and I told them like, just be on your P's and Q's a little more because I'm realizing something, or I'm gonna let y'all know when we gotta leave, or we about to leave right now because I'm already not feeling it. And it's been times where we left. Sure enough, I heard a situation
Right.
that was at that same location. I just told everybody we out, like let's go. We don't need to be out. I'm already feeling it. You start to look at people's eye contact and the way they are before they even speak or make an action happen. So being able to read or respond to somebody's body is a very important thing. Daniel, I appreciate you by the way in the comments, my boy. But yeah, that's a very important thing. People don't realize like just because you're book smart doesn't mean you're gonna be the most intelligent person in the world. That's not how it really is. And going towards where we are nowadays, it's starting to matter less and less. It really is like you're starting to have to learn to be more aware of your surroundings. So that's a very smart thing that I would have liked to add on.
I think that's important to highlight because that's something that I learned growing up in my environment naturally without anybody telling me to learn how to be street smart.
Exactly.
It's just you know it for your safety or whatever. So when I moved over here and I went to undergrad, I saw that my peers, the people that I was around, lacked that. And
Yeah.
if I would say, hey, do y'all not see this same person that's walking past, or do y'all not see the same car riding past? So I say, hey, I prefer to sit here so I can see everybody that's coming in the room and I can know how to escape if something breaks out. Or they're like, oh, you paranoid and this and that. But I'm like, I'm street smart. I know how to be
Yeah.
aware of my surroundings before something breaks out. And I noticed that many people that, education is important. I'm not going to say that it's not, but many people that value book smart over street smart was not the brightest in that area and was always in trouble or different situations in a different way. And they could have prevented it by having that street smarts that
And
naturally
you
come
know,
being in those environments.
what's interesting too about that, because you it's a certain, and I would say this, it's a certain ability you gain when you grow up in poverty.
And it's
It's
natural.
it's a certain ability you gain, and
It's natural.
you go to these a lot of these areas, that's like very very good areas, no crime and all that, and they walk free as a bird, like life is good in a sense, like you don't have to worry about a lot of crime, you have to worry about a lot of things, so they don't pick up on those things, because crime isn't isn't just second nature to them, it isn't just something that's like, oh, it's there's problems or there's a group of people. Like every time I see a group of people, you think one or two things. You know what I'm saying? Like it's it's like it's those type of things you feel in yourself, like, oh, if I, oh, like this person's looking at me weird, he's trying to be intimidating, or it's like that's things you get when you are in environments like this. And honestly, it's good. It's really, it is a good ability you should have.
Right.
Is to understand people's temperatures, understand how people's moving. It's really it's also, if you want to consider, it's a survival instinct, and that's really what it is. And certain people have that, so it's not like, oh yeah, what Diamond said. It's when people, it's not paranoid. It's not. It's just being aware. I used to get called that too. It's so funny.
100
People used to say the
times.
same thing to me. Oh, you paranoid. Look, like, why you act? You don't even have ops. Like, why you doing that? It's not about that, because anybody, even the nicest guy, can be the meanest. Like, and even people who don't look that bad can be bad. And it's about being aware. I was telling my mom this the other day, like, you know, like, I go outside and I naturally have to put on a face, because if you out here in the streets, people are gonna try and punk you if you look too friendly and to everything like that. I told my mom, I said, I would love to just go outside one day and just like smile and cheese walking down the street, man. And like, but you have to be like a serious face, so people like don't take you in the wrong way. And you only feel like that when you grow up around here, So that's really what it is, and it's an interesting thing, man. So it definitely is a natural ability that you just gain when you live in these parts, and and it's just about instinct that I would say is useful. So definitely book smart being over street smart. Um, I don't agree with that. I definitely don't agree with that.
Right.
But yeah, that's what it is, man.
And I
So,
noticed, I'm
oh, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
This is
ahead.
the
Yeah,
last
I
thing
would
This
I'm
be.
is
going to
I had
good.
a
say.
No,
point
no.
too.
This is the
Go
last thing I'm
ahead.
going to say
No, go
in this
ahead.
topic.
Keep it going. This is good stuff.
I noticed, as Gabriel was speaking, it made me think. I noticed a pattern. I'm never called paranoid when I'm in Chicago. But once I moved out to Maryland and DC,
Yes.
this
Yep. Yep.
area, it's like, oh, why you keep turning your head? Why you keep looking every time
Exactly.
somebody walk past? And I'm just like, I'm being aware of my surroundings. Why are you not doing that? So I know that they came from my environment because of the pattern of me being out here. It's just different in that way. I know that the responses are not the same as the responses of where I grew up or people that are in that environment that I came from. We all do that. So I'm like, that's normal. Why aren't you
Right.
doing it? You think I'm paranoid, but you are not wanting to
Right.
be safe.
All right. I agree with that. It's like you can't like tell me I'm paranoid, but I've also saved you in a situation because
Right.
you weren't paranoid. Like it's an awareness thing. It's not me being paranoid. It's me growing up in certain situations and realizing how you have to move when you feel like something is about to go wrong. And that's really a overlooked thing. Like it's called trauma. And I would like to disagree with that because that's a big thing now. Everything is always pointed towards trauma and not towards experience. You can have experience without having the trauma of it. Sometimes you didn't just fully go through something. Sometimes you heard about it and it made you more aware of how you are and how you act outside. Go back to what Gabriel said with the face. Like sometimes it's been times where like me and Gabe, we've been in martial arts since we were kids, and I'm like serious martial arts, not play and stuff like that. So yeah, with the UFC sweater on, but seriously, like I've done jujitsu when I was 10 years old. Now, when you look at that and you go outside, some things just shouldn't phase you, or but also it also teaches you awareness because not everybody outside is gonna want to
Right.
fight fair with you. So I go outside with a smile on my face, and sometimes I've been stared at, and I look right back at them. Sometimes you just don't give them the time of day because you know what you are capable of as a human, and sometimes you look at it and you know it's not worth it because if something happens and you end up hurting a person physically and they may not be able to come back from it, then it's like, dang, I'm in jail. I just threw my life away because somebody may have tried to walk up to me and say something to me and I felt like I had to defend myself. The ego of it is a very important thing. Some people feel like they have to be tough. some, some some people feel like they have to be tough for everybody around them or for themselves as well. You could be walking by yourself outside and see somebody outside and be like, "Oh, I don't like the way he's looking at me." but I know what I'm capable of. I know I box. I could just go beat them up if I wanted to. Like that's not a good way of looking at things you have or you've
Right.
been equipped with and learned. That's not a healthy way of thinking. Like you could just go around beating up people and stuff. Sure, I know how to defend myself, but why would I want to look at somebody before I even spoken to them and be like, I know I can beat this guy up if something goes wrong or this girl up. Like that's not a healthy way of looking at things. So ego is a very big thing nowadays as well with youth. Not only youth, but older people too. Because
Yeah.
older people try it with youth all the time. Oh, you're younger than me, this and that. Like sometimes that really doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter, bro. Having an ego is a
Absolutely.
very dangerous thing that people have. And going back again, it's really social media really amping that thing up the most. To have an ego to feel like you got to shoot somebody if something happens, the first thing you got to use is a gun and not your words. Sometimes looking at somebody and be like, bro, like, do we really want to do this? Like, is this really worth it? And then really having that thought in the mind, like I've had to tell somebody before, like, man, like this, I'm telling you, bro, like this isn't what you really want to do. Like this isn't
Right.
worth it, bro. We could talk this out.
Yeah. And
And he
it's
sat
the
there and he thought
interesting.
about like, you know what? You're right, bro. Like I see you have the kickboxing and the boxing gear. Maybe this isn't worth it. And we literally joked about this. Literally happened to me. And he was like, you know what? And he ended up being a cool person, because it's like, why use violence if God gave you word
To
of
speak.
mouth, the
Yeah.
the ability to speak with your tongue.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes violence
it's
isn't necessary.
interesting. It's interesting you say that because like me as a writer I'm very philosophical and a lot of things I preach and what you said just here is very
And we
interesting to
love to
me.
preach.
You
We
know,
love to
you already
preach.
know. But, we need to start introducing a, you know a conversation before violence. And something that's so interesting to what you're saying is because yeah, sure, I got many years of martial arts. We do martial arts since I was very young. Um, I don't. I one thing I always teach is here. I don't ever promote myself, saying, "Oh, I'm a martial artist.
Yeah,
Don't mess with me because I'm a martial
that's
artist." Like,
corny.
nah, it's corny and because look, I did martial arts for many different reasons. I don't like to fight as my first option. I would never pick violence as my first option. Because violence can possibly lead to more violence, possibly give you to your loved ones getting hurt. You got to think about it. When you're fighting, you're not just fighting. It's not just you fighting. You know what I'm saying? It's possibly your loved ones can get hurt if they want to attack you in some other ways. It's a bigger picture. So you got to think about a lot of variables. You know, for instance, if you're with your friends and someone's barking at you and you want to fight them, but your friends can't self-defend themselves as you can, they could possibly get hurt or possibly even killed in worse scenarios. You have to be more open about these things. So you have to introduce talks. It's not about you being, soft or you being the P word. It's not about that. Sometimes they're gonna call you that. They're gonna call you that, and that's their idiocy and stupidity. That's them. But it's also about being the bigger person, which nobody wants to start being these days. Is the bigger person. You got to start being the bigger person. You got to start being the more mature one. Like, why are we fighting? What's the whole point of this? Even if you know you can be someone up, even if you don't know you can be someone up, it's about introducing a conversation. About setting the peace. Like let's end this. Let's talk about it. Let's get this going. Also, another thing too, it's majority, and this is majority of problems in youth violence. It's over nothing. It's over nothing. Yo, like why you talking to my girl? Why you doing this? Why you doing that? And that's because it's a lack of mannerism. It's a lack of maturity. It's a lack of everything.
Lack
It's
of
stupid.
conversation,
It's stupid kid
communication. I
stuff.
agree, bro.
It's stupid kid stuff, and that's the thing. Like, I've had people who've tried to argue me and a year or past a year, whatever the hell it might be, and I end it. I'm like, I'm like 19 years of age. You think I'm going to say I'm not going back and forth with someone? I'm like, I am going to never go back and forth with someone in an argument.
Yeah,
Like, once it reaches over, like I'll probably give you 2 minutes of my time, and that's it. 2 minutes, and that's me being generous. So it's like we're gonna cut it here, or we can just and that's it. Once and that's the whole thing with them, man. Yeah,
So
go ahead.
you guys talked about, like, you talked about ego, you guys talked about levels of maturity, you guys talked about, transparency,
Mental health.
mental health, and all of those types of
motivation.
things, and And the ideas that you guys have spoken on as far as ways to kind of escape from choosing violence, right,
No,
makes sense. It makes sense to you and I because we're on the other side of things, right? But I want us to go back to that young man or that young woman who's still living it, who's living in a household where mama don't care, papa don't care, ain't nobody in there that really cares. You
yes,
know, people in the household is taking advantage of them one way or another, right?
yes,
Whether physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, some kind of abuse is happening at home. And then in addition to that, you know, they don't have the bare necessities, you know, that they need to really be stabilized at home, let alone to be out in this world, right, and try to survive, so to speak. So when you're faced with some of those challenges, and then you're asked to be mature, enter into the world as an adult and things like that, and you haven't been equipped to do so, or you have barriers upon barriers that challenge you to not get to a point of getting past the threshold of the front door of your home, right? Before, and I'm talking about before experiencing that violence. How do those young people overcome the challenges that are right in at home? You know what I mean? Like starting there. Like they can't get to a place of maturity. They can't get to a place of putting down their ego and whatever else they dealing with, because a lot of what's happening and the violence and trauma that they're experiencing is happening at home. And so then when they are able to become free, so to speak, they go out into the world, and what do? They put inflict that type of violence and abuse on other people because it was never dealt with, right? So then we in a space where those young people who might have had a rough start, now they can't, they don't even have, they don't even know where to begin, because the beginning was messed up, the foundation wasn't laid straight. You see what I'm saying? So trying to get to those type of young people that the foundation wasn't good at all. And now you're asking me to become an adult in a world
I would like to go
where I
first
got
on
to
that
be
topic.
mature, I got to have morals, I got to have good standards, and no ego. Yet
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming out of trauma, abuse, neglect, and
Yep.
everything else. How do they do that? What kind of program is going to help me when I
I
don't even
wanna.
know what I need to be helped? Go ahead, y'all. I'm sorry.
My bad. Nah, that was my bad. I didn't know you was done yet. It, I love that you really asked that question, and I want to go back to one of the many questions you had in your run along question, and it's the escape route. Some people do not have the escape route. Sometimes you have to face it. Like us now, we're facing it. We're not out of poverty yet. We're still facing it. And one of the when kids realize they also don't have an escape route, when they feel like they don't have an escape route and they don't have things to look to, that's a very dangerous thing, because that's how this um reaction of violence and drug abuse happens. Sometimes kids don't have a perfect home. You could have parents, like I said, that's just the title. Mother and father is just the title, like I said last episode. Mother and father is just the title. It's what you do with it. Sometimes people really have abusive parents that put their trauma onto their kids because that's the only way they feel like they can help with it. Now, when you can't escape and you have nothing else to reach to, like I said, is a very dangerous thing. So I feel like one thing that needs to happen way more is that stopped happening because of how dangerous it's become, is people willing to go into neighborhoods and very dangerous poverty neighborhoods and set up summer camps for them without having to tax a parent that maybe can't do that because they don't have a job, or things are tight. Go into a neighborhood and set up a nonprofit summer camp like PAL, for example, what we had when we were kids. I realized towards my middle school years, PAL really it disappeared. It started to disappear slowly and slowly because they felt like the neighborhoods were too dangerous to send people out there. Now, for me, to be honest with you, that's all a fair thing. I can sit here and say my neighborhood is very dangerous, but one thing I can also say is that you're not just gonna somebody's not just gonna drive by and shoot you, or somebody's
Yeah.
not just gonna drive by in a crowd and shoot, kids having fun playing hopscotch. Some dude isn't just gonna run through a roadblock realizing what the events that are happening for kids and be like, oh, I'm gonna shoot this up. I feel like a lot of things are being used as an excuse, going back to the trauma thing. So
Right.
one big thing is having summer camps, having people willing to come back to where they came from. Some people, ego things. Some people are like, oh, I'm too good for that. When you're
It's
not knowing
forgetting where they came
for
from.
helping struggle.
That's what it
Exactly.
is. And being ashamed of that when you should embrace it because it's a part
Yeah.
of your story of who you are today. And that's one thing that's my approach a lot of the times with youth that are getting into trouble or at risk youth. I remind them that this is a part of your story. Especially when I was volunteering in a juvenile center, I would let them know like this is you still young, you got time. This is time for you to learn and reflect and then embrace everything that you went through. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be ashamed where you come from. And you made a good point about certain neighborhoods where people think that if you go, you're just going to get shot from walking outside. I have that experience when I tell people that I'm from Chicago. They think that you're going to walk out the airport and it's GTA 5. And I say that it's not that. Violence and it happens everywhere you
Yeah,
go, all throughout
absolutely.
the world. But a lot of the times, I tell people Chicago is not like that. You can be associated with something, you have risk factors, all the things that we name and that relates to the violence, but it's not that is just going to happen to you. And a lot of the times people are afraid to go into our communities due to that stereotype. But a lot of the stereotypes are pushed out through the music and media. And I know that we brushed over that in the beginning with talking about social media, but even the media outside of the internet, what they choose to broadcast on the news, when they choose to show mug shots of us, but it's not us, but like people that look like us, but they're not showing the graduation pictures when somebody passes away. So those stereotypes are built from the media as well. And I think that a lot of the time we have to also point towards the lack of accountability and policies from not only families, mothers, the youth, and even us, but the people that are in these positions to make changes, the politicians,
Exactly.
the governors, the people that are over the school boards that have this power but are ignoring it. And they sometimes come from the same communities that we come from.
And it's,
So
it's, and
Chicago and
what's
New York are two of the most
right.
exploited cities when you talk about
Exactly.
violence and drugs. And I love that you really brought up Chicago because that's a big thing. When people talk about Chicago, they don't talk about the good side. They don't talk about how Chicago
Exactly.
has produced some of the greatest athletes or have had some of the greatest athletes play in their stadiums
Michelle
or
Obama is from
play
Chicago.
nationally. You get what I'm saying? Like they don't talk about the greatness that comes out of New York anymore. They don't talk about how Jay-Z and 50 Cent, two of the greatest hustlers ever, and turned their hustle into fame and riches and fortune. Jay-Z's now a billionaire. 50 Cent's on his way to that. They don't talk about us having amazing people come out of our city, legendary people, legendary athletes. They now they want to look at Old Block or Mott
Yeah.
Haven, South Bronx, or yeah, they just
And you
shoot
know
up
what's so
stuff.
interesting?
It's just drug use and
You,
stuff. Like
you want
it's
to
never
know
positive.
what's so interesting about that is the fact that I think that the media highlights the bad
To
moments.
get
Key
money.
word. We got to key word that moments. Because I can tell you this from right now. Is my block the most amazing block? Absolutely not. Right? I have never once seen drive by. I've never once seen anything like okay, yeah, sure. There's bad moments that happen, and do I like to see that? No. Right? There's commotion going on this hood, commotion going on that hood all around me. Right? But that's not something that's 24/7. People gotta stop acting like it's 24/7. Like every day's a shootout. Every day is
Right. Like I'm
a
not
slunged
ducking my
out.
head right now.
Yeah, like there's a slunged out. Crackhead on the street. Like we can't keep acting like that. Like it's not always there's like good people who live in the hood too. Not every person who's in the hood's a bad person. And there's good people who live in the hoods, people who are trying to change. As Jasir said, there's people who use their hustle to make it out. And another thing too, going back to what Tammy said about people who don't have a good parents, and who don't have a lot of things, who's like completely rock bottom and everything. This is where it comes into that. Look, all we can do is speak. All we can do is speak, and we can show you the way. To speaking to that person, because I'm gonna speak to that person real quick. It's just the effort if you want to make the change. We're like Me, Jasir, Diamond, Tam, we can tell you about experiences, and we can be transparent towards you. And we can touch your soul. And we may not touch your soul, and anything we, what we preach. It's if you're gonna make the effort to. We do not have the power to get you up and take you to school every day. We don't got that power. Us, we only can motivate you, and we can be transparent to you in the best ways we can. It's if you're gonna make the effort to do so, because at the end of the day, it's your life. At the end of the day, it is your life, and this is where the realism comes in, because if you don't have all those outlets, but let's say you stumble across a podcast, or you maybe stumble across a little sense of motivation, whatever you want to do, it's if you want to keep that and you want to make use out of that. Because it's up to you. You can walk by, and while you're walking by, there's so many motivations, things that's your way, but you're not picking up none of it because you're just walking, going about your day. Or you could maybe walk by and stop and say, you know what? Let me see what I can learn from this. Let me see what I can do from this. And that's everywhere. There's always, I'm never gonna hear this not. There's always a outlet of motivation, an outlet of positivity in your way. I will never hear this not. That's absolute lie. You're gonna get that some point. It's either you want to take it and be like, damn, you know what, or take it and be like, damn, you know what, I'm gonna do something with this, and that's up to you. Because it's like, and it hurts me. It hurts me to say that realism, because there's some, like, I do want to, like get you out to see, and help every person and lead you the way to this, but that's literally impossible. So sometimes you have to make that step yourself. You have to realize that step yourself. Sometimes you have to understand, like, damn, this is really motivation, or damn, this person's like me. If he can do this, I can do this. And now I'm trying, now that runs your mind. Okay, well, how can I achieve that? How can I do this? And then you go through your ways and you start networking with the right people. So it's really about which the steps you're going to take. And that's the sad reality of truth of it. It's just the effort you're going to do to it. It's how you are going to get yourself out of that. And you got to
I
tell
don't
you.
want you to go too far from the point you made. I really
Yeah.
don't, with the choosing to be fully motivated part,
Right.
because sometimes people don't realize. Shoot, ask 10 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, it's most certainly gonna happen. You're going to have to go through that mud. You're gonna have to go through that grind. This
Absolutely.
this ain't sunshine and rainbows. We're not born rich.
It's your
You're gonna
story.
have to go through
Right.
the mud.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
gonna have to go to rehab maybe, or you're gonna maybe have to start practicing more self-love and self-care, which is I want to touch on later, which is a very lacking thing in our neighborhoods now. Self-love and self-care. Maybe you have to go through that. Maybe you have to meditate alone. Maybe you have
Absolutely.
to be like, let me stop smoking, or because even weed nowadays, I want to tap into that too. Not all weed is good weed, and people also do not study where they're getting it from, so maybe you
Absolutely.
have to be like, nah, I have to stop drinking, I have
Yep.
to stop staying up late, because if I want to get this grind going, I gotta sleep earlier and wake up earlier and get my grind going. Some people aren't willing to do that. I can only preach to you as much as I can. I tell some of my friends that, some people I mentor, I tell them, like, I can bust so only do so much for you, bro. Like, or
Yep.
sis, like, you have to get up sometimes and do it
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to tell you all the time.
And something that's so
It's the
interesting what you're
discipline
saying.
part.
Something that's so interesting what you're saying is
Yeah.
like, for instance, I can maybe I can build a boat with you. Maybe I can build a boat with you, possibly even push you into water. You have to paddle. I can't sit here and paddle the wave with you. Maybe I'm not good, because listen, what your route and destination is, maybe it's not my route. Maybe I can help you in terms of motivating you, maybe being transparent with you, all those qualities, right? But now you got to paddle that, and whoever you meet on the way with your boat, come along. That's how you network. That's how you build something off that. It is very interesting off that. So, it's really off that fact. What Jasir said. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example, which is, it's also having people around you, who you can have fun with, and but the people you have fun with is the people who's motivated with you, people who are want to go up with you. Like, for instance, I just saw my brother
Without
just
having to
here.
do the drugs and
I,
stuff.
I just saw my brother Jasir
Yeah.
a couple what was it, a day ago. I was with Jasir these past 2 days, basically, right? And basically, we were upstate and we were having fun, and
Yep.
we were really, again, responsible, having fun, and I love that. I've known just since I was 10. Us doing that, it's that's what it is. But automatically, what happened? We go right into our work the next day, right into what we're doing.
Yep.
like I had acting class today. I put on a phenomenal monologue. Everything was going right because this is what you do. You have your moments where you have fun. You have moments where you get back to work. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta grind. You
And
got
that's
to.
what it is. And that's the whole point. Like, don't get me wrong. There's time where you can have fun, but not all fun's good fun. Not all fun's the right fun. And we have to put limiters on that. So it's about who you hang around with. It's about what you're doing, and going back to what Tammy said, like, about trying, like, who people who don't understand how to get out, understand how to do this, and going back to just yes, there's only so much we can do, and that is a sad truth. Like, I don't have like telepath powers where I can physically talk to you 24/7 a day to the whole world. I'm not Charles Xavier. I'm not an X-Men, right? I can't do that, right? But I can only do so much, and we can only do so much. Like, and that's the sad reality of it. So you have to make the effort. You have to say, you know what? Am I doing what I'm doing is right? Is this right? You have to tell yourself that. And this
Dude,
all
it ain't
stems
even a
back
sad
to
reality. It's what you gotta do, bro.
yeah.
Like, everybody got a sob story. Everybody has skeletons in a closet that they
Yep,
may not tell people
absolutely.
to past death, but you have to grind, bro. Everybody got an
Everybody gotta
excuse.
go through the mud. Everybody gotta go through
You
the mud.
got to.
Everybody gotta
That's
go through
all it
the.
is.
Everybody has their wounds. Everybody
You
got
can
their
always make an
cuts. Everybody
excuse.
has it, and that's the thing too. Another thing, you know, like, everybody wants a sob story. Everybody wants a sob story and why they can't do it. I can't do this because
Yeah,
this happened, bro. Listen, I can sit here and preach you 24/7 about things that happened in my life, about a bunch of things that happened in my life. You know what I'm saying? It didn't stop me. It didn't stop me. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I had 24/7 wisdom around me all the time. It wasn't always like that. You know what I'm saying? I had to kind of, in a sense, and this is the honest truth, and I'll be honest with you, I had to gain that myself. I didn't have people in the beginning around me who was too motivational, besides my mom, and besides other people. Like, I didn't have so much people. I had to gain a lot of that myself.
you gotta
I remember
grow it.
there was a point I was in my mother's room and I was just sitting like this,
Yeah.
and I was just gaining myself. But how did I do that? I started writing on my phone motivational quotes every day. I literally, my phone's filled with that, things I wrote, and
Yep.
you have to make that change yourself. Sometimes there isn't going to be people who are going to be with you. Sometimes you have to take action to your own hands. How do you do that?
Mhm.
Well, you have to understand the outlets that are around you. You pick up things, even if it's like 3 seconds of it, pick it up and make it into something that's a bigger thing. And that's what it is. It's about networking, putting things together that you hear. Networking
Yeah.
isn't only just people you talk to, it's things you hear as well. Network
A
around,
knowledge.
exactly.
Mhm.
And
I
knowledge
think
Sometimes you
I
gotta
think
do it yourself.
I'm sorry, Gabe. You made
Night, but go
a
ahead, go
great
ahead. We
point.
talking
You
now.
you made a great point when it came to the journaling as well. I was going to
Yeah.
highlight that I think with us being transparent also comes with offering those healthy alternatives after you say, okay, I did this, I did that. Journaling, for example, is one, because it's making me think about when we touched on the whole topic of youth smoking weed, for example, right? A lot of the times they don't know how to address those emotions or even be aware or say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. They don't even know how to say, okay, I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling sad, because that doesn't exist at home. But knowing, okay, you're smoking
Mhm.
weed because of that feeling that you're trying to repress, those healthy alternatives are just spending time with your friends, going out to the movies, even without engaging in that. And journaling can help you put your emotions out there. So I think that's
absolutely.
important in that transparency conversation to provide those healthy alternatives for the youth and something that they'll also enjoy as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Also
absolutely.
And so
meditating too.
exactly, yes.
Meditating is a
Yeah.
big thing people don't do. Like, that
Some people
really
can't
helps
get
reset the
quiet with
flesh.
themselves to meditate.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
And that's
true.
the
Or even
problem,
spend
not
time
being able
with
to battle it.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we're gonna talk
And we're
about
gonna
that
talk about that on
Right, we're
Sunday.
gonna talk about that
Oh,
on
okay.
Sunday.
Okay.
I,
And I was gonna say
Diamond,
I was gonna brush over
Diamond
it a
got
little
some
bit.
stuff to share with us on Sunday, y'all. So stay
I
tuned
was
for
gonna brush
I
Sunday.
got
over it
you.
a little bit when it comes to the street smarts.
You
That's
All right,
can,
so
you
important
I
when
ain't even
it
can,
gonna
you
say
comes
nothing,
can.
to
and I'm gonna let y'all do
No,
that
no,
Sunday.
it's
My
okay.
bad.
with
It's okay.
traveling.
Nah.
That's important when it comes
She's
to
gonna talk about traveling,
yeah.
solo traveling on Sunday.
And if I was not street smart, I would not be able to solo travel and
Yep.
go to
There you
different countries
go.
by myself.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
learn that. He would be like, "How you do that?" Because I'm, and everything happens everywhere. But we're gonna talk about that.
yeah,
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
yes.
gonna let
It
y'all
all
live with that
connects.
one.
It
No, no,
does.
no,
It all
no.
connects.
Y'all gonna enjoy that. Um, one of the things that I mean, we talked about a lot today, and I definitely want to keep this conversation going. I ultimately do want you guys to come here in person and us do a live event and bring youth into, in a platform, and we'll talk about that offline
Well, you got to
because
see the word,
there,
Cuzzo.
yes, and I'll make sure I take care of the accommodations and everything, because I think that it's different for me to come on a platform and have a conversation with you guys, right? And and all of the wonderful people that joined us last week. I think it was like 8 people on the platform last week. I mean, that conversation was amazing. It went 2 hours long. We had an hour and a half. And this goes to show that this conversation and the things surrounding it, youth violence, is so important. The conversations needed to be had, and the conversation will continue. I want to bring you guys in person, but I also want to keep this conversation going. So
Absolutely.
definitely want to bring you guys back on a platform again next week. We have the conversation to just keep it going, and bring in different co-hosts, more co-hosts to add to our conversation, especially young people, because young people want to hear from young people that have overcome, right? And of course, adults at times too, because we kind of arrive to a certain place where young people can say, oh, you know what, they made it to that, I want to get there too. But I think that peer-to-peer support is so important. It is so important. You being an ambassador for young people, and you're still young yourself, I think that's just a great um, aspect of what we're part of this action plan, right?
Right.
Because as I think through it, I'm like, we really need to have young people speaking to young people on platforms, and talking about, listen, y'all, there's other ways to survive out here. There's other ways to make it to where you're trying to go, or to gain clout, or to gain a
Right.
rep and a name. And it's not the negative, the street credibility, what do y'all call it now? Street cred way or
Yeah,
whatever.
rep.
You know what I'm saying? It's the way of, let's show you how to build something different in a different type of way. And all we can do, like you said, Gabe, like you said, Jasir and Diamond, is all we can do is, speak on it, give them some tools, offer some programming with our program partners as we continue to grow this thing out. The action plan definitely includes partnership, because we can't do it all. So while you guys are in New York, and Diamond, I know you're going to Chicago this weekend. So while you guys are in different places, and there's people down in Georgia asking me to bring them on the platform, and in North Carolina, different places, big cities where we know youth violence is prevalent. They want to be on this platform. They want to have these conversations. But I'm also going to challenge us that as we're in our respective cities, that we think about who we can partner with and have those partnerships with in those communities, and build out programming with stuff that already exists, or just enhance what is already there, to make sure that it really is by the youth and for the youth. You know what I'm saying? So that we can bring the youth in, and then hopefully have some better outcomes. So I want you guys to, one, share, another one more gem with people that are watching it tonight, and then what they can hope for next week. And then also, if you want to drop your social media handles so people can follow you.
Right. So I'll go first. So one thing that we're definitely going to talk about more, and I'm going to wait. I also can't discuss this. When BA joins back as well, because I was really interested. Is words. Words is something that I definitely want to discuss.
We'll bring them in next week.
Definitely. So definitely
Yeah.
words, and definitely what what we're truly describing ourselves, and what we truly feel about ourselves and certain things. And another thing I want to say to the youth is, you have the power to change as well. You have the power to do better and seek better, and you are more than what you what you tell yourself. You're more than all the bad thoughts you think in your head. You know. Everybody has that ability to change. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. And I'm not even going to speak to you. I'll speak to every single person. Every single person, no matter what age you are, you have the ability to change. You have the ability to do what you got to do. You have the ability to dream. You know, you can do anything in this world. Anything in this world. You can have that spark to do anything in this world. Gain it, obtain it. Listen, proceed, execute. Execute is important. Get the qualities of discipline and consistency and apply it. You can do it. You can do it, and don't ever think for a second you're not worth it. Don't ever think for a second that you can't do it, because that is an absolute lie. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what background. Doesn't matter if you're skinny, if you're overweight. Doesn't matter what it is. You have the ability to change. You have the ability to gain opportunity in things you think holding you back in your life. So definitely motivate yourself and definitely be more than what you think you are, because you are more. So that's my piece on that. Absolutely.
The last gem that I would like to drop on the gem is just know that your current circumstances is a part of your story. And it's also extremely important to have your own mind, follow your own mind, use your voice, and just have your own morals. Because when you set those morals, you're aware of your morals, you're going to follow your own mind and not what's popular, trying to fit in with everybody. So I just think that that's important to sit with yourself. Like Jasir made a good point. It's a lot of people don't know how to meditate or sit with themselves. And I think that's important to take that time and just get to know yourself so you're not easily influenced by the media, by peers, and those around you. So all in all, just know that your current circumstances are a part of your story, and also just think for yourself and move for yourself, because that's how you're going to get the furthest, and you're going to be most satisfied by knowing I'm staying true to me and I'm aware of my morals, and nobody can knock me off of my morals because I'm going to always align with them. So that's extremely important.
And I 100% agree with both of you guys on what you said. My last thing I would like to add on is one of my main points I wanted to make today was is, and I didn't even get to say the word. I just really showed examples of it, and it was meant. All in all, everything we discussed: transparency, motivation, discipline, mental health, self love, self care, that all falls under adversity. And all of those things we talked about, there will always be adversity. There will always be adversity in self care and self love. There will always be adversity in motivation and discipline. And there will always be adversity in transparency. But it's what you do with it. And I wanted to add another thing. I might have people I could bring literally that are, going through what we're talking about right now onto the podcast. I'm gonna talk to them. Those are my brothers that, and they really like
Yeah,
look
bring
to
them
me
on.
for mentorship and stuff like that. And because they know I'm coming from love, I don't anything I say is not gonna be BS. I'm gonna be 100% real with you, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you or nobody around you. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care who's around you who may not like what I have to say about the life you're choosing to live, or that you think is the only way out. And just know I forever got you. No matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everybody can just be like me or Gabe or Diamond and
Yeah.
sit here and do this with the confidence we have. Some people have to see somebody doing it and really be guided by it. And I have people in my life that look to me for that type of guidance and that type of mentorship that I
Mm-hmm.
have on my own personal own, that I grew
Wow.
up with from outside of school, or
Mm-hmm.
outside of me and Gabe's friendship, that I think I could bring on
Mm-hmm.
here to talk about this. So I'm gonna see if I could, because that's a very important thing, to going back to what Bond just said about transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about transparency, we have to show an example of it. And like I said, I'm only real with people. So if I'm telling you I can show you ways of transparency, I'm gonna show you. I can show you ways by showing the amount of support and love I have from people that are living that lifestyle. So I'm gonna try to do that 100%. And I don't lie about what I say. So I will have somebody here next week if we are doing one. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Listen, I truly, truly appreciate all three of you guys being on here tonight. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm overwhelmingly like, like just absolutely feeling this whole conversation and movement. You guys are now, if you haven't already realized it, you are now youth activists, and you are definitely activists that are going to now join me on this journey to help prevent youth violence in our communities. The more that we can bring to this awareness, the more people I think can spread the word. But I also think the more people that are willing to get on the front line with us and kind of work in different communities to, you know, build out programming, you know, just touch our youth in ways that maybe they haven't been touched in a long time, you know, just, you know, making them aware and just building up, you know, their confidence so that they can be in a different space if they are in that negative space. So I'm super proud of you guys. I appreciate each one of you guys. And I am so excited for Sunday, but I'm also looking forward to next week and you guys bringing people on, especially young people that can speak to either their current situation, what they're dealing with. Maybe we can kind of, you know, talk to them through this, or, you know, maybe there's someone who has overcome and they'd like to share their testimony. So I look forward to that next week. Thank you guys again. And, you know, thank you guys for joining me on the G.E.M. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification if you haven't already. And we, you know, appreciate you guys. Stay tuned.
All right, yeah.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, y'all.
Thank y'all.
All right.